Right. We've still got plenty of town to explore at the moment, so let's see what else there is to see. And apparently, the first thing we've got is a minor emulator glitch that thankfully fixed itself. Well, that's one playground I'm not all that eager to play around in. I assume you have a better idea where things are than a random visitor would. Well, it's kind of tough to find people in this world who aren't. This feels like something we should have had right from the start, much like the radio card. We did start with Professor Oak's and Professor Elm's numbers, along with our mothers, after all. It'll probably take us a while to make it to that city, especially at the rate we've been moving. Now, while part of me feels that the story could have done something with Bill's father being a big gambler, that would have required better writing than this game has proven to have. Hell, the poor bastard doesn't even have his own individual name. Well, let's see if we can find Bill's father in here. Probably the smartest idea you've had all day, but maybe I'm just overly biased against gambling with how scummy some game companies can be. Well, I hope you have a large enough wallet to pull that off, and that you winning proves to be a profit for you. It would be a bit awkward to play until you win and still end up down by several thousand at the end of the day. Well, so long as you know when to hold them and know when to fold them, you shouldn't have too many issues with that perspective on life. Not really seeing anyone who could be Bill's father, but I suppose he wasn't an important character in any way, so why bother giving him a distinct sprite? If you don't give him a name, then he's just another forgettable part of the crowd. You'd think that a place like this would sell coin cases as part of how they earn money from all the gamblers. Nope. The only way we can do anything is if we have a coin case already. And the only way to gain one in this game is to grab the one that someone decided to throw away out of frustration due to failing in gambling over and over again. So, well, this is certainly going to be an especially large store. In many ways, it feels like Goldenrod is heavily based on the in-game design of Celadon from the previous generation. Not a bad things by any means. With the graphical and gameplay limitations, there's only so much you can do to make something seem like a city, especially since there's no way you're gonna actually fit thousands of people into the game world, period, much less a singular location. But it's just another thing that makes it tough to really separate Johto from Kanto. The original Game Boy and the Game Boy Color were just too close in terms of what they could pull off. There are still just as many pixels designed to be seen on a screen that was just as small. At best, we get some more color because, well, that's the reason they called it the Game Boy Color. I suppose there's also the pre-fighting animation that Pokemon do in this game. I'm not sure if the first generation could pull something like that off, considering how much they stuffed into the cartridge. And while the second generation's cartridge had more space, it feels to me like they were too busy throwing in ideas to think about how they all came together for the main part of the game, where you're gathering the 8 gyms and going to the Elite Four after them. Not that I think that the ideas they had in this game were absolutely trash or something, just that I would have preferred they put more attention into making the starting section of the game feel more distinct from the first generation, instead of keeping things simple, so they would have more room for the post-game stuff, which they made a lot of. You do realize that means you spent a turn trying to speed up your Pokemon instead of having them attack right then and there. Sure, speeding things up is kind of a sign of impatience, but it'd be more impatient to not even bother waiting to speed up your Pokemon. But then who am I to talk about patience? I have over 24 hours worth of footage commented on for StarCraft, the first game I ever did a Let's Play for. This is the second Pokemon game I've decided to Let's Play, and even without the Pokemon Stadium footage, the amount of time I spent on the first generation was over 30 hours. My patience is certainly not something to scoff at. It is a little too high if I'm especially invested in getting something done. Sorry, but in Pokemon I very much try to avoid using items whenever I can. Possibly to make up for how in some Final Fantasy games I just purchase obscene amount of healing items. And possibly because there's just no way to gain infinite cash unless you've already beaten the game. It's actually kind of funny that the game series that has a more limited economy than most other role players is the one that's more meant for children than the ones that generally let you gather cash from just random encounters and various other means. Well, I'm very unlikely to bother evolving them the way they're meant to be evolved. I'm more likely to try using some cheating method to make those Pokemon change forms, simply because I do these games alone and have nobody to trade with other than myself. And I can certainly say after my first gen playthrough, trading with myself is more trouble than it's worth. I'm sorry, we would have to trade a goddamn Abra to gain a Machop here? I'm pretty sure the only way we could gain an Abra is by using the Game Corner. At least in this part of Johto, if I remember correctly. Besides, if I could train an Abra to the point of being a Kadabra before fighting Whitney, I'd feel confident enough that I wouldn't feel as desperate for a fighting type to deal with the normal gym. Sure, the Dark and Steel types were introduced in this generation to counteract the Psychic type's dominance from the previous one, but those two types aren't going to be prominent in this gym. Normal type is. Well, the vending machines in Celadon's market had a bit more of a use, opening a path to the next town for us and being a way for us to gain some TMs. You know, there's a better way to take a break from shopping, leaving the goddamn store. It helps that the internet probably hasn't taken off in this world just yet, so she can't feel tempted to keep buying things on various websites. Sorry about that. Just because I can't enjoy the view doesn't mean other people have that same odd limitation. I have nothing against your hobbies there, sir. Considering some of the hobbies I've seen people get into as they get older, that is pretty tame, all things considered. And good God, I am glad that there aren't any of those crane machine things that we can actually interact with in this game. I just have no clue how things like that became so damn popular in Japan. And I can't think of too many countries outside of Japan that might be so into them. But maybe that's just because I'm not looking in all the right places for those little crane things. Definitely feels like I've explored all the parts of the store. Nothing especially amazing to me, but then this isn't the kind of game that gives us gear like swords or armor. If Dire Hit was something holdable that works so long as the Pokemon continues to carry it, that would actually feel like a pretty damn good deal. But really, I'm just looking to make sure I don't miss wherever they're selling elemental stones in this town. The thing is, they don't sell elemental stones in Johto. The only way to gain elemental stones in this region is to get the phone numbers of very specific people and hope you're lucky on a particular day and they'll have something for you. Now, I could have gotten away with not needing one by just choosing not to have Pokemon that evolve in that fashion on this team. But considering I'm also trying to limit myself from using more than a certain number of Pokemon that were part of my team for the main Generation 1 playthrough and its alternate, my options are already kind of handicapped in this playthrough. Which, of course, makes a hypothetical Soul Silver playthrough in the future feel more relaxing and possibly fun than this. I wouldn't be doing things like purposely avoiding gaining a Geodude here or a Spearow there. But then I remembered there being more second generation Pokemon in Johto itself than what we have actually been seeing. It was one of those plans that looked better on paper. Yeah, we just haven't seen even the gyms showcasing the newer Pokemon so far in the first 2 gyms. Dear God, the second generation just kind of feels hamstrung compared to the first, doesn't it? Oh, nothing much, sir. Just a trainer looking for some late-night experience points. Okay, that Growlithe is certainly a higher level than I was expecting. I suppose that makes sense. That's the only Pokemon this call has. Definitely don't like the fact that Flender is slower than Growlithe here. This exchange rate is definitely not going to favor our bat in the least. Okay, I was planning on saying something about softening the dog up before switching, but no. He just used Roar to change our Pokemon for no apparent reason. Ooh, son of a bitch! China certainly wasn't all that lucky with that bloody hit. It was literally as painful as it could possibly get. And yeah, it looks like China is done here. Sorry, girl. Was hoping you could finish the job in 2 hits. No clue why Flender managed to get that hit in if he's slower than that dog. Still, nice to see Flender got pretty close to leveling up there. Well, she has to try to have a tough team, if only because there's so many people looking for a fight in this world. Just because you can't measure up to Jack's team from the previous generation doesn't mean she's not an absolute badass in her own right. It just means that the first generation got an obscene amount right, and the second generation had a very uphill battle to seem relevant directly after that one. Oh, I'm sure you'll be seeing us again in this clip, because after the fight we just went through, I'm pretty damn tempted to do some more grinding. If we're out-leveled by a random trainer outside of a gym, then we're most definitely out-leveled by the gym leader. Guess it's back to fast-forwarding for a while, since I doubt we're gonna get too many conversations from the wild Pokemon. And great. We've got to fight against something I'm sure we haven't captured just yet, which means no experience points to be gained in this first fight. I very much doubt I'm gonna put Jigglypuff on my team, but hey, no harm in having one. I've probably said this a few times in both generation playthroughs, but dear God, do I feel like an ass for the sheer number of Pokemon I just leave in the box. It's just such a big thing in Pokemon media that you're making friends with the various critters you capture, that it's such a nice and pleasant world, and here I am just casually stomping through the grass and go through the little ritual thing to prove I'm a worthy trainer for a Pokemon. I have essentially told this Pokemon that I'm capable of making him a more powerful fighter, and I'm just gonna give the poor guy an anime girl's name, and will probably completely forget I bothered capturing him in the first place. There's just no way a trainer comes out of that little exchange looking good, just absolutely preventing a Pokemon they captured from ever growing, just because they want to add to a collection they might not even actually care about. And it is just such a general thing to do in a Pokemon game. I don't think any Pokemon player, even the ones that do very, very limited Nuzlocke runs that test their skills to the highest degree, avoid just shoving Pokemon into the box and forgetting about them, or maybe using them as sacrificial lambs as a tactical move. Huh, I don't think we have a Ditto yet either. Guess we're slowing things down again for the nicknaming segment. Okay, guess this is gonna be a bit more troublesome than capturing the Jigglypuff, and probably more expensive. Definitely more effort than we probably need to go through to get something we're never gonna use. Still, it's a nice change of pace from the usual battles, so I suppose capturing is its own kind of fun, even if it doesn't give us any experience points at the end of it, at least not in this generation, or several after it. Right, just spent all of our Pokeballs on a damn Ditto. That's definitely a bit annoying. Son of a bitch! I just lost China for a second time in the same damn clip in a random encounter. Definitely not helping my morale for the eventual gym battle. I was hoping China would be an absolute badass by the time we get to Whitney, but she's not looking anywhere near that just yet. Well, at least we finally managed to capture that gunky bastard. Definitely more difficult than we were expecting, that's for sure. Wait. A Ditto against a Ditto is probably gonna just transform over and over again into a Ditto that can only transform. And considering Dittos are used for breeding purposes, how do Dittos even reproduce themselves? Oh, I'm probably misspelling narcissist here, but considering a Ditto probably doesn't want to see itself, or another Ditto, it actually kind of works. Anyway, let's buy some fresh Pokeballs, get healed at the Pokemon Center, and end the clip. We have more grinding to look forward to in the next one, assuming of course that you would want to look forward to grinding in a Let's Play that probably has quite a bit of it this far in anyway. I'll do what I can to at least say some possibly interesting things next time, so there's that. Oh, you most definitely will be seeing